and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to another one of my topics on divine reunion today, which is the completion of our soul imprints. So I've talked about soul contracts and the blending of the extraterrestrial and terrestrial energies, which are basically the higher celestial energies influencing the nature of what it is and means to be human at this time. Of course, we're always evolving, right? So I want to talk about the situations that we're each dealing with that are helping us to break through those imprints. So I'm going to talk about more on this nature and what is occurring in my book, which is the book I'm writing at this time about the mission of volunteer souls and the grand design, and a lot of these higher concepts and ideas and what does it mean and what volunteer souls are actually going through and why, what is the bigger nature of this. Everything will be in this book. So I want to say that for the starters of this understanding, just as every human is going through their karmic cyclical cycles, the souls who come in from higher planes of being, they're not actually entangled in those cycles, and yet they still have to move through those cycles. We still have to get to know what does it mean to be in this karmic energy. What does it feel like? What are these basic human responses? Because we need an understanding of it if we want to break through and crack through the codes. Crack the codes. So what the volunteer souls do, they basically imprint on these patterns, and each one gets a specific kind of like a pool of these assignments, the energies they're going to help to come into awareness with, to break through, basically to dissolve, and not just dissolve, but put also new light encodings into the human stream of life. And this is what we basically do. We work with the beings who work with the crystalline grid, and I'm going to talk about this again, like I said, in this book. It's going to be dedicated to this higher mission that it's happening behind the scenes. Many of us have been clearly shown this, and we do have an understanding what's taking place. But on a human day-to-day level, we don't always know, right, what these situations are and what are certain dynamics within a relationship we have to go through. And certain times we feel like, well, that's just something that's happening. It's not a part of my mission. Well, for the volunteer soul, everything is a part of the mission. Everything is encoded. Everything is within our own life force is encoded, and it leads us to where we need to be and how to break through to these patterns. So just as we're getting these vertical understandings, we're also at the same time merging them with our horizontal living day-to-day reality, with our essence in this living world. What this means is that we're bringing these higher ideals, this higher energy in this pattern of gradual process as much as our body can handle into our body. So we meet circumstances, people, and situations that will help influence this. So when we get the set of these imprints, we become like this wounded healer. But our first part of this is being, in a way, a wounded wounder. And as we're still not recognizing those patterns of what we're working with, we're still probably going to see it as happening outside of us. And the bigger purpose of this, I teach in my Cosmic Beloved course, because I really recommend this course for everyone who is interested and knows they're in this path of divine union, of merging and becoming truly Cosmic Beloved, all of your levels and inner realms of being in a cohesive unit. Because what we have to do on Earth is master the cohesion of all of our four lower bodies. Only then we can start to break through and really merging our light body with our physical body when this first stage is complete. So we do go through many layers and stages. Again, that's going to be further described in the book as well. I've talked about this already before a lot, but this is going to go deeper in insight. Okay, so in this nature of divine union, what is taking place is we're slowly, gradually penetrating to different layers of these patterns. So as people and situations come in our interaction, and this is what I teach in the Cosmic Beloved course, how can we use every single, and there's no exclusion here, every single relationship for the benefit of us walking the path of self-mastery, to really see what this is for us. How is this helping us to basically crack those codes? And what this means is also we have to get the bigger picture, right? And a lot of us didn't always see this bigger picture, and we felt, okay, these things I do, this is a part of a mission, and then this is not. These are certain intrusions, and a lot of times the ego will start resist that. It will create this almost like a dynamic within us that will want to resist that happening, and we won't see it as a part of this process. But the mission is something that is all encompassing. It's all the interactions we've ever made that are part of that. I'm talking about the more prominent ones that have influenced our lives in a very strong way. So often these beings that will not be on the level of our mission or our vibration, they will come and influence us in a specific way that will be in a way strengthening us, right? It's almost like we're boosting our immune system from within because we get an external trigger, a catalyst for our growth. And a lot of times these were beings or people who did not have the right empathy, compassion, understanding because of the encoding that we needed. So this was self-created. We don't always recognize it as such, but the more we work with this wounded healer archetype, the more we're going to become this wounded healer, not the wounded wounder anymore. So we won't kind of like continuously recreate that energy, but we're going to, at a certain point, we're going to stop, we're going to recognize it, we're going to nib it in the butt, we're going to fully dissolve it, and then bringing the new encodings that will be brought forth through us. This is what volunteer souls do. But the point of this video today is for the divine union. How do we know that we have broken through these agreements, that we have broken through these imprints that we have taken on to help the whole, to help assist by doing so? Exactly. So if you want to understand more on the nature of this energy and transfusion and how you can use the essence of enlightened partnership to activate this, your own presence in the cosmic beloved essence, please do consider taking the course Cosmic Beloved. It's for everyone, but especially for those of you who feel strongly called to the beloved path. Okay, so let me start a little bit on that. I'm going to give you also a representation through my own example. So when we imprint, we will usually work at the core level of creation essence, which means that each one will take a specific assignment that will be mission encoded for us, that will revolve around certain aspects of separation and fragmentation. So anything that's based still in duality, we will imprint upon in order to understand it, to come into awareness with, to acknowledge it, to work with love, because love is what moves through that resistance, which is created through that false separation. And then we're going to transcend it and integrate. And then we're going to infuse with a new light encoding. So the deal here is that a lot of us had to work with these energies in layers because they're so, some of them are so dense and so separate, okay? So we had to go in cyclical nature through these different relating patterns, okay? So we had the first imprints were through our families, our ancestral blood lineage. Then it was a lot of people coming into our lives, even in the early relationships when we were still perhaps young adults or teenagers. And then always the energy progressed. So let's say when you're working with a specific energy within your imprint, it's going to continuously return to you until on all of these layers of the spiral, you finally culminated. And I'm going to talk about this. How do you know this is done, okay? Bear with me, please, because I want to present the whole story, not just a fragmented aspect of it. So as we do so, right, when sometimes you see someone coming into your life as a person you have, let's say, a relationship with or acknowledgement through something happening, something ends or someone leaves, then another person enters, we have to come into awareness that first and foremost, as volunteer souls, as star beings, we work with energy. So even if it's someone as a person, recognize the energy behind that is coming and trying to enter into your life. And this is all already incorporated in the Cosmic Beloved course. I really always advise people to take this course because it's so profound and it's so simple in truth when we know how to work with it, because there's a lot of people who don't see this. And the mission of divine union is not black and white. It's not like this, okay, you have a person, there's your twin flame, okay, longing to be together, divine union. It's not about that. When you realize why we're doing this on the core creation level of greater unfolding within this planet and beyond, you're going to see that until you do that, until you have that understanding, you're not going to be even able to meet the divine counterpart that you're doing this work together in partnership with. Whether that's in spirit or not, it doesn't matter, because you're always in this tandem, in this partnership of your divine feminine and masculine essences within. And there's a lot of us here from other realms who have always been in unison, always been for the mission, always been a united mission. But when we come to the earth, we have to do because we come into separation, right? So we have to realize how separation works in order to create the triangulation within, which is the key to bring us back to unity. Okay? Again, go to the Cosmic Beloved course. And what happens is, what I'm shown is those of us who really are in this true sacred union path, we can't move on to that before we do that self-healing part, which is the wounded healer becomes a true whole holistic being. Even when you assist others, you're going to do it not you won't do it from an egoic perspective. You're going to do it from a holistic soul perspective. So whatever you do with others, the work of service and assistance will not be ego-based. It will come through your wholeness, your integrated self-presence. So before you do that, you're going to have to walk through these steps. This is a part of the divine union, okay? And once we really do that, it will be felt, okay? Now, let's see. What are some of the aspects? So when we work with this as an energy comes back in layers, sometimes it's different people, we have to recognize first, what did we imprint on? What was our most dominant story? So for me, I've worked with a lot of this immature masculine energy, which is what you could call the boyish energy, the immature masculine, which sometimes acts like a child, it's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Or talking back. You can imagine someone talking back to their parent, it's that energy. What I felt just recently when I asked myself for this, what I imprinted upon, it's almost like even the energy exchange between me and most men was not so much as lovers, but it was many times of me playing this role of a mothering presence in their lives. And then once they were fed up with it, they kind of just stomped on it and said, I don't give any attention on that. I really don't care. It was almost like that immature child that just leaves the parent behind, totally ungrateful for their presence, and they just want to venture on their own path. Why we do this is because we have to develop the unconditionality behind this, okay? So when you recognize this and see it as a repetitive story in your life, this is the imprint you've been working with. Why we do that, it's a similar thing. The only difference with the rest of the populace is that they do it within their own karmic cycles, but we do it through imprints, and yet we're all in needing to do that. But because our awareness is higher, we're more advanced, and our consciousness, we can do this work much faster, with much more progression, with greater effect, and therefore we're influencing the greater field through the crystalline grid of light. We're putting these patterns so that everyone will get a chance to do this, to move from separation-based relationship with everything in life and with other people, and into an enlightened, cohesive way of being in unity. So when we do that, when we see that pattern, we're going to see like a story unfolding. And for me, it was always like the energy was like a child leaving its mama. So if there's an immature masculine essence I've worked with, there was also the immature divine, not divine, but immature, feminine essence within it. The divine feminine and divine masculine are not like that. These are mature essences that we all have as these potentialities. So this means when there's one aspect, there's always going to be the other side of the coin, because they're always in unison. A lot of what I see in the spiritual circles is either saying this is the masculine or this is the feminine. They're always one. It's always a process. There might be different angles of viewing it, or one is going through this or the other one is going through this through gender. This is like gender specific in the way we relate to it, but in truth, in the higher nature, it's not gender specific. It's the essences we're bringing back together at the core creation level. And people in these twin flame communities, they don't realize this yet, mostly. Well, perhaps some do already, but it's very few who have the advanced understanding of what divine union truly is. And for us to walk with it in full integrity. And a lot of times when these layers of energy come through people, people misplace it for being their beloved or their life partner, someone they're supposed to create with, and it's basically not going in that direction. and they're gonna try to force it to happen, and perhaps that relationship isn't meant to be of that nature. And what we do as humans, a lot of times we're impatient, so we want it to be that, and we're like, but it is, I want it to be. And you can, as badly as you want, wish for something to be, and it won't be. That's the nature of truth at its core level. When you do recognize this, you will see what was in your life as the returning cyclical nature of that energy until you fully culminate in it. And the secret of truly culminating in it is when you are ready, when you have so much love, compassion, and acceptance that you, at times, there will be created through your soul. It's all soul guided and based. A situation, an experience with someone who will have such a strong intensity that it will literally knock you off your feet, if I can say it like this, which means that your compassion will have to, through that radical experience, become so radical, so genuine, so unconditionally loving, even if that, well, for me, it was felt like someone always leaving, right? Once they get fed up, it's like energy that's always coming and going. It's not stable, it's not grounded, it's not mature, but it's the immature energy that, just comes when it wants to feed off of something and then goes back, and returns and goes back. That's the immature energy, how it works, because the mature essence within us is stable, it's stabilized. It's really beautifully present, and it knows the focus. You know what you're doing, you know where you're going. All your four levels of the emotional, physical, spiritual, mental bodies are connected as one, in one unit. They're operating together. But when this is not so, and a lot of times people who don't have perhaps developed the emotional body, they won't know they're hurting others because they're detached from it. They're not able to feel. The more you feel, basically the more advanced you are in that way, because you have more capacity to be compassionate. So for us to have that, we had to go through these experiences because that's what we're doing. And a lot of times you might wonder why you have to go through so much and so much crap from others who were never like you, who never had this empathy, who never had this greater understanding or love. It's because the mission is to accept all energies as one. So when that radical expression, the radical experience happens, this is when you get so fed up with that energy that basically the toughest experiences or the greatest oppositions in our relationships help us to move into unity. It's because through this extreme diversity, like when I had this recently last year, it was such a strong fall when I literally had that, what's the worst that could happen? And after that, I felt like this immature energy was just starting to leave anymore because I no longer wanted it. It was no longer within the imprint that I held. The imprint was starting to turn over, starting to dissolve, it was starting to become something else. And I could feel it because I no longer was even compelled to the same energies that before I would still kind of harbor, I would still kind of invite in my life unawareingly because of this imprint. So what that means is, if there's this immature energy that keeps moving and leaving, but at the same time it's still returning in your life, the code is still not cracked. You're still working on it. And a lot of times, like I said, these most radical experiences will help you to break through. Okay. It's really important to know now when this happens, because there's probably going to be, for most of us, quite a lot of integration happening when this last culminating cycle, at least that's how it was for me. It was so much inner work. There was so much of the fueling of that new that had to take place for that radical compassion to evolve, because it has to be physical. You see, it has to be embodied. You can have a mental understanding, or when something like that happens, you can say, well, I forgive the situation, forgive the other person. You can say, oh, on the soul level, there was an agreement, blah, blah. You can have all the knowledge you want, and you still won't be able to do the work. So once this is really embodied, you will feel the energy is just gone. Everything you have before accepted in your life, even if you said, well, it's okay, I'm so compassionate, I can have that in my life, when it's not in your vibrational alignment and you were still inviting in it, it's because of these imprints. Once you will be clear of that, you will become your inner self, how you are. That outer self didn't always match it, right? Because of that. Your outer self will start no longer craving these things. You will start to say no, And recently I watched this reading from this woman who does these beautiful tarot readings. They're so in alignment with what's happening sometimes. And she said something like, oh, no more of these people who just come and go, and it's over. And someone said, well, how do you know it's over? She said, when you feel like you no longer need it. And that's the thing, that's the key, is you no longer have that energetic pull. Your magnetism within changes because you've rewritten it. And from there on, there's this maturity happening. So when there's people who say, well, but I still like these relationships, or they feel safe, if they in a way do not reflect that inner, even the basic nature of our sexuality, for example, those of us who are very advanced, we flow with this greater, higher tantric sexuality, which is life creating, life generating, creating artistic means and higher expressions of the divine creation energy. Those people who still use sexuality only as a recreational force or exercise or whatever, even people who say, well, but I like it so that I have this relationship in my life, or I like it so that I have a feeling that I belong or that I'm loved, all of these will shift when you will no longer crave that, because you've rewritten it. You've fully accepted yourself, your higher advanced state, your evolutionary cycle, what you're meant to do, what you're meant to be doing further along. So even that physical attachment to these things will have to dissolve. Sometimes you say, but I'm not attached to it, I just like it in my life. Well, it can still be used as an excuse, you see, because we still kind of like it. That means if we like it, there's still energetic resonance there somewhere. But when we tune into our inner being, say, is that really how I express my conversation? Is that how I express love? Is that how I believe a relationship is supposed to be in an enlightened form? Am I equally energetically always in mutual reception? Is my sexuality expressed the way I am? A lot of times, no. And when we do engage in forms of recreational sexuality, or even what people call the casual sexual encounters in these things will start dissolve. They'll start to fall away for the people who already know for this step of union. Because sometimes we say, well, the right person or whatever, the mirror will come, we're just gonna live this. It will come only when we fully neutralize this. You see these imprints, and when we fully decide to own our vibration on every single level, even at the deepest physical things, how we eat, how we, like I said, how are we expressing our sexuality. I have a beautiful mastery course on sacred sexuality and owning our tantric life force, and a lot of that can help you in this process. Okay, so if you are resonating with this, do the work, because it will get you faster. Not faster like you're in a hurry or you're in a race with yourself, but in a more conscious engaging with the energy in your own life as a master of the self, when you will be proactive with it. So you will choose yourself, you will choose these higher forms, you will choose higher potentialities, and naturally these lower natures will just dissolve. So for me, this pattern, which was almost like boys coming and leaving, and mommy was like, oh, why don't they, they're ungrateful, they're like this. And the thing is that the immature aspect that was within you also, in a way, babysitted that. It held that pattern safe, it held that person safe. So in a way, when they wanted to be their own selves, they said, stop it, I'm gonna do this myself, leave me alone. It's like you can imagine it like an angry teenager that says, mom, dad, leave me alone, I'm just gonna do this myself, that kind of way. So I worked a lot with this immature masculine energy, and now, after doing much integration on my own imprinting, it's just started to dissolve, and I no longer started to be even slightly interested or craving in these means anymore. They just started naturally dissolve. So I always share the things in my union of the progression where I am at, because it's not just my knowledge, but it's also my physical expression that really gets the mastery flowing through the actual embodiment. That's why I always share from my own personal experience with you. So how do you know? The basic answer that's very simple is you just know, because your energy changes. Your inner no more has such a differentiate with the outer. It starts to unify more and more. It's almost like this Merkaba vehicle of light really coming together in our physical form as well. It meets in the sacred cosmic heart. Beings who do not yet have their cosmic heart fully activated, they will act differently. But because we've done the inner work, we've laid the grounds that eventually, if they do the healing, they do the work, they can come back if they want. If it's meant to be on some level. If these are souls we are in a way connected with for something that we are meant to co-create. But if not, it's just going to naturally move away and something new comes. because what we're given, the universe, the earth in itself is abundant, it's plentiful, so it always gives us what we want. Even if you feel like, I don't want this, but there's still slightly this physical craving because it's engraved, because we've asked for it, so we learn how to transmute it. So then we're going to be able to share this knowledge with others who are going to walk through this process in their own time and nature. So I hope this helped some of you. It's time to release those immature connections if you are in this part of your journey, so that true originality, so that the great mature masculine, matured feminine can meet and be together as one. Those of you who really feel you're ready and that you're at this stage of your union, I congratulate every one of you who's come so far. In a way, it's been quite a biggie. You know, when we plan these things, when we pre-plan from a level of soul, it all seems so simple, right? But when you come down to earth, we're like, oh, gosh, not always so simple. But there's no specific demand on our part, like you have to do it this way or that way. There's just guidelines as into what we do need to do, but we still have to do it on our terms. So if you're not ready to release something yet, a relationship, just let it go, because masters of the self, we accept things, we embrace things, we don't forcefully let go. Because if we do that, it's going to continuously come back. There's still something within us that resonates with that. It's going to continuously attract that, although we say, but I let it go. When you embrace, when you accept, and it's just acceptance of the self, you will start vibrating differently. The inner will meet the outer, becoming a beautiful essence of union, and more to come in the book. So thank you for being here. It's all beautiful art of soul alchemy, of soul expression at our core. Thank you for doing the work. Thank you for watching and sending your feedback, sending the love. I really don't like to repeat myself, but you know, these videos are quite voluntary and unconditional. So if you in any way feel called, and I do advise you to consider that, please make an energy exchange to help me also to share more, to be on the path of service, to unconditionally give. So just as my sharing is unconditional, I hope yours will be too, in some degree. Those of you who feel are called, thank you so much. If that assists you in any way, that's what I'm meant to do. So thank you for staying tuned. I will see you probably in my next Ascension update for the next month. So keeping the thumbs up. I already received some of the guidance. I hope you're having a beautiful time. It's very beautiful here in the Alps. As you see, some of the snow is melting, and really representative of the layers within that were layers that we think we need to act a certain way when we're just the way we are. You know, the way we love is the way we love. We don't have to be like the rest of the world, and that will bring this higher consciousness that we hold within to the outer forms of expression. So let these layers melt away and dissolve, make room for the new. I wish you all the best with always so much love, wisdom, and power. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. And if you're guided to have a personal session with me in regards to your own union, you can find that within my personal services. All the links, how you can support me, even the support of my new book, which is going to take quite some time, but I'm also very fast. I'm very hyper in that matter. So you can support down there on my main donation page or Patreon channel that I created for that purpose. Links below. I love you all so very much. A big hug, and see you soon. Bye.